According to sources, a rebellion inside the Labour Party is reportedly in the works, which bodes ill for Keir Starmer. We'll analyze this developing scenario and discuss the most recent national political events in today's video. Before anything else, though, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and join our expanding community. Even well-known political journalist Robert Peston recently told ITV that there is a major conspiracy against Starmer developing at the highest echelons of the Labour Party. He is now seen by many in his own party as a liability and a surefire way to lose the election. The public's and Labour's initial fondness for Starmer has quickly diminished. His policies and leadership style have alienated both admirers and detractors. His treatment of the WASPy women who are impacted by pension disparity is one obvious example. But in the past, Starmer and Labour MPs were outspoken in their support, even taking pictures and promising to stand up for them. Now, despite resources being allotted for various programs and activities, Labour maintains there are no funds to fulfill such commitments, making those promises seem hollow. This tendency to make commitments and then break them later has come to characterize Starmer's leadership style. In addition to undermining trust, critics contend that this recurring breach puts Labour's long-term relationships with important voter demographics, particularly older women, who have long been a vital component of the party's base of support, at risk. Starmer's detractors call him dishonest, opportunistic, and unsuited to a public position. His leadership frequently sacrifices sincere values or long-term vision in favor of political scheming and short-term strategies. As a result, dissension among Labour's ranks has grown. It says a lot about Starmer's leadership that such a strong opposition has formed so quickly following Labour's alleged electoral victory. Concerns over Starmer's leadership extend beyond internal Labour politics and affect the entire nation. His strategy, which was fueled by public relations tactics and focus groups, has alienated voters from all political parties. Many believe that instead of concentrating on short-term political advantages and catering to certain interests, he lacks the vision and conviction required to lead effectively. The party's ambiguity on important subjects like healthcare, education, and economic reform has disappointed voters in historically Labour strongholds. Many people are disenchanted with Labour because of its unwillingness to propose drastic revolutionary reforms, worrying that the party is veering without a defined goal or plan. Mistakes in policy are not the only source of dissatisfaction. Many in the party believe that Starmer's inability to establish a personal connection with voters is making Labour's problems worse. His perceived distance and technocratic approach have added to the perception that Labour is disconnected from the average working-class person. Alternative parties like Reform UK have been able to capitalize on the annoyances of voters who feel ignored by the conventional political establishment as a result of this impression. Some others think that the damage would not be significantly repaired even if Starmer were replaced at this point. They contend that under his leadership, Labour's reputation has already taken a serious hit. If today's election were to take place, Labour might end up trailing both Reform UK and the Conservatives. It might take years, if not longer, to rebuild confidence in the party. Accountability is still a major concern. How are broad promises made by political parties possible? Fail to provide and carry on without opposition. Some argue that procedures should be in place to remove a party from government if they are elected on false pretenses, possibly enabling the runner-up to take over. Even though they seem drastic, such policies might encourage politicians to keep their promises. Widespread requests for electoral reform have resulted from the decline in popular confidence in political leaders. Some have called for more checks and balances to stop leaders from breaking campaign pledges without facing repercussions. Public annoyance is rising, and if nothing changes, political indifference may rise as well, undermining democratic participation even more. Starmer's leadership is in a precarious position, as seen by the increasing internal conflict within Labour. According to reports, his own supporters are turning away, and the party's divisions are widening. Even if Starmer is ejected, his successor will take over a party that is widely viewed with suspicion and mistrust. There is genuine fear that Labour's internal strife may eclipse its policy agenda. hindering the party's ability to run as a unified front in the upcoming general election. Labour runs the risk of becoming irrelevant and a less powerful force in British politics for years to come if these internal conflicts are not resolved. In other news, British homeowners may have to pay up to PS4,000 million a year in taxes to fulfill net zero ambitions. The Telegraph claims that the green tax will increase household shopping expenses by up to 56%. The UK's waste reduction and net zero strategy includes this legislation, which levies fees on manufacturers and merchants according to the packaging materials they use. Critics contend that it will add red tape for businesses and raise living expenses for households. On January 1st, 2025, Michael Gove's Extended Producer Responsibility, or EPR, plan will go into effect. Businesses will be billed for the collection and disposal of packaging waste under this scheme, transferring expenses to manufacturers and retailers from local councils. There are no signs that council taxes will go down in spite of this change. Depending on different economic situations, the government predicts that household bills may increase by PS28 to PS28 to PS78 per year. Labour's PS4 billion cost estimate for the program has been contested by the British Retail Consortium, which claims that the true cost may be closer to PS10 billion and that most of the expenses will be passed on to customers. The plan draws attention to persistent conflicts between environmental policy and economic realities as families prepare for increased expenses. Household budgets are already being strained by inflation and the growing cost of living, and now there is additional financial hardship. Environmental measures are important, but many contend that they must be weighed against the financial security of regular people. These policies run the risk of increasing economic inequality and causing more challenges for lower-income households if they are not carefully managed. Keep checking back as we keep an eye on these developments and provide you with the most recent political analysis.